All right, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Michael Dougherty,
Present.
Fred Shimura,
Present.
Dave Horton,
Here.
Ron Cabana,
Here.
Roy Bradrick,
Here.
Lynn Lessig,
Here.
Michael Bernardi,
Here.
Jeff Kelleher,
Here.
David Richardson.
Here.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Everyone is here, so we can skip seating an alternate.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may I
sir.
make a motion to suspend normal business momentarily for a presentation of a former member?
Absolutely.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay. Well, David? It's been an honor to serve with you, I'll tell you. I probably wouldn't have stuck around this long if it wasn't for you. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we have a plaque that we'd like to present to you. It says from the Woodstock Board of Finance commends David Hosmer, 20 years of continuous leadership and dedication, fiscal management, and the service to the town and its citizens, 1998 to 2018. Thank you very much. And hopefully the rest of us can hold up as well as you have.
Well, some people are just a glutton for punishment.
And we have all the members here from the Bunkie Fire Brigade.
Yes, Dave, on behalf of the fire department, Dave, can I speak, is that all right?
Yes.
Just quickly, on behalf of the fire department, we wanted to come in and show our appreciation for you. Not only were you on the board of finance and their chair, but you were also our treasurer for quite a long time when I was chief, when Roy was chief, so that was about 20+ years also. And from all of us, we greatly appreciate everything you've done for us.
Things go around in a circle.
Yes.
When I first got on the board of finance, okay, he was the chairman.
Oh,
Now
boy.
we first selectman.
So you're saying you're gonna be first selected?
Work it out.
I think it would also be nice to recognize Dave's wife.
Absolutely.
Hey, Judy.
Absolutely. Put up with all this for all this period of time. Again, David, thank you very much.
Thank you, Grant.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Dave, you don't have to sit around and listen to all this if you don't want to.
I won't be staying too long. I've got my chauffeur.
Okay. Well, you're more than welcome, believe me.
We may appreciate your counsel.
Yeah, your sage advice.
Do we need a motion to restart the meeting?
Yeah, we can do that.
I make a motion that we resume our meeting.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, next. That was
Second.
Ron Cabana. All right, next order of business will be to approve the minutes of the January 9th, 2018 regular meeting.
Motion to approve. A new look.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Bye, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
Bye, David. Bye, Judy. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
When I get feeling a little better and the weather gets a little warmer, I'll come back.
Okay, yeah, you better stop by and say hi.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Judy.
Have a safe trip home.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second by Mr. Lessig. Any discussion? Go ahead.
I just got a couple of things. Page 3, under new business, the last paragraph.
What page, Dave?
3, page 3.
Yep.
Where it says Dougherty and Richardson noted, blah, 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 by June through a surplus, by June, though, a surplus develops amounting to, that really should say, a swing between April and June of $300,000. The actual surplus was 160,000. I've got this, and I'll give it to you, Dottie. And then on page 5, It's the paragraph just before K.
So third paragraph.
One, two, third paragraph, third line up from the bottom. It said Richardson confirmed that at the FOIA training, the FOI training, that wasn't at FOI training. What I had said and what it was that he had a discussion with FOIA and they expressed that sharing info is legal. The discussion of BOF matters is not. And I had said that their catchphrase is dissemination's okay, discussion is not okay. And those were the exact words that were used.
Did you bring a printed copy of your changes for?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I would ask whenever we want to make a substantive change, that we bring something in writing for the minute taker, to make it much easier going forward.
Everybody good with that? Okay, any other additions or?
Nice new format, by the way.
Yes. Very thorough. Very
Thank you,
professional.
Mrs. Durst.
All right,
Setting a high bar.
so we have a motion and a second. Should we approve those as amended? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so carried. All right. Next order of business, public comment. Any public comment? Doesn't appear to be much. Public. Okay.
No comments, Linda?
I thought with all these people that were earlier, that we were gonna have something going on here.
Thought we were
I
gonna
haven't
move.
wanted new engines.
Yeah.
I missed number 5.
Yes.
New towers.
Yeah, there are no committee reports.
No?
All right,
Fine. Mr. Chairman, we entered unfinished business.
we're entering that now.
Then I would make a motion to add, or make as the new E on unfinished business, an update of the above-ground tank, which would make the current E now F.
If in fact we get a representative here from the.
Well, it's still on the agenda, so.
Yeah.
Dottie, you all set?
Mhm.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay, we need a second.
Second on that?
Second.
Mr. Lessig? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, so carried. All right, update on the state budget. Well, we've gotten some information from Karen that she's printed up that came down from the governor's office. Dave and I both spoke with our representative, Pat Boyd, last evening. And as one would expect, they're still in quite a disarray up there in Hartford. So there is no real concrete update at this time. Nothing is truly changed.
I think they're kind of in a deadlock and
Right now,
revenues
yeah.
are unclear and.
Everybody's jockeying for position, and Mike, you know how that goes, and
Well, actually, yeah, unfortunately I do. We did have, Dave did attend the meeting, because I think, when did you attend Commissioner Rediker's meeting?
Last Friday.
So it was last Friday, so Commissioner Rediker of the Department of Transportation came out to NECOG and essentially a number of grants that have been awarded to communities have been put in limbo because the governor has essentially declared that there is inadequate funding to finance those. So Commissioner Rediker is making the rounds of the state to help the governor address what the governor's proposed solutions are. which are increased tax on gasoline products, tolls,
Tires,
tire tax, and
new car,
new,
higher tax for new cars. You do have some of that in your packet, I don't know,
so, and, yeah, Dave had the opportunity to represent Woodstock, at the meeting, and, John, I'm sorry.
John. Yeah, Dave's
Too many
his
Navarros.
cousin.
Sorry. Don't be
Town.
kissing your cousin. Thank you. John had the opportunity to represent Woodstock, and it was a bunch of material that is not likely to have a lot of support in Hartford, you know, but the reality is that the state essentially doesn't have the resources to continue to go down the same path. So I would suspect it's gonna be very chaotic for the next year and next fiscal year, and I would suspect that too, that when a budget is passed, it probably will be late.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully Pat said the same thing. It's gonna be a lot of turmoil this year.
Right, absolutely, that's basically what Pat said, and what it amounts to right now is, because we, by law, have to have a balanced budget in Connecticut, one of two things have to happen, either spending goes down or revenue goes up, and as we all know, it ain't a pretty picture on the revenue side, so therefore, there's gonna be additional cuts. And where and when that happens, that's where the fight is right now. That's what they're looking at, so.
I saw something today that they want to push back the green funding for $175 million over this year and next year, with no idea how you're gonna fund it, because that had been pulled, so the whole gets $175 million deeper. It's incredible.
Well, the other thing that he did mention, that they're working on right now, both sides, actually, the Republican and Democrat units are working on these holdbacks, or supposed holdbacks, to make sure that, in fact, that that's what they end up being, just a holdback, and later, those checks will be cut to the towns versus
never getting anywhere.
just not happening, because that's not the way it was originally put out there. It was not a cut, it was a holdback, so.
I did ask Mr. Boyd last night if we should anticipate a cut, probably in April. Which is, I think April's about when they usually tell us we're gonna get less, and I don't think he was trying to be overly evasive, but he didn't really have the answer.
He didn't have an
against him.
answer.
And he thinks that's certainly a real possibility, but the legislature itself isn't in support of it. I'm not sure that's gonna matter. Right, we're talking about executive mitigation at this point. But I will say that he was very open, easy to talk to, and very frank
Yeah.
to communicate with. So.
Do we have anything else on that? If not, we'll move on to the next item, review of the fund balance policy. My recommendation is that we continue the suspension on the cap at this time.
Need a motion?
I think it should. All right, so we have a motion.
I'll
We have a
second it.
Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried.
Dottie, you all set? Keeping up?
Update on the solar project.
I just had a couple of quick things. From the last meeting, just to clarify something that was discussed. 5 deadline dates. There are 5 accounts. The 2 schools, the town garage, the town hall, and the WPCA. The reason that there are 5 deadlines is that the contracts go by the meter read date. So they go to the next meter read date. That's why each one of them has got a separate meter read date. That's why this 5. back in January, I reported that the rate for January through June was gonna be 13.334 cents. I had gotten that verbally from Eversource. Finally, the last week of January, they posted the new rates for January through June. And our rate is gonna be 13.281 cents, so it's like 5/100ths of a cent less. That's the numbers that are in the sheet that everyone received. We're on target for about $40,000 for this year, which is what we expected earlier, so there's no real change there.
On target for $40,000,
A $40,000, basically it's a profit on the solar system, that's the credits less the invoicing.
January to January, Dave?
That would be from July 1st to July 1st.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a profit, that would be a savings.
It's, actually, it's a profit. Well, call it whatever you want. How much credit we get, less how much it costs us to get
So
it.
it's,
So, the only other thing I was gonna add is that, in August, the reimbursement rate will be getting cut because we'll go from a 60% reimbursement on DNT to a 40% reimbursement. So next year's savings or profit, whichever way you'd like to look at it, will be significantly reduced. For the town and the schools, I would suggest they not budget more than $25,000. That's 80% for the school and $5,000 basically split amongst the 3 town accounts. And that assumes that the generation rate stays where it is, which is high. If that drops even 1 penny, out of that, so we'll actually could be down around $10,000 next year. If it drops more than a penny, we get down to pretty much zero.
If the generation rate increases, which they're talking about, then that savings or credit would increase, but the overall cost would increase.
No, our cost stays the same. It's always 9.3 cents.
yeah, that's a locked in for 20 years.
Yeah, if the generation rate went up above 9.1, which is roughly where it is right now, then we would make additional money. But the trend seems to be in the other direction.
I thought Eversource was applying for a rate increase
They were
on the
applying,
generation side too. I mean, on
the DNT side.
yeah.
On the Schedule 30 rate, there's no change. There might be a little change on the other. There is a change on Schedule 30 being applied for demand charges, but that doesn't come into the calculation.
Refresh my memory about the 60% now, that's 60% of the distribution and transmission
Yeah,
reimbursement,
right.
which is included in the 1.13281.
Yeah, there's 3 pieces to the credit. There's the generation rate, there's the FMCC, which is the federally mandated congestion charge. I'll figure out what that is, what it adds. And I can go plus or minus. And then there's the DNT, which is distribution and transmission. We started out at 80% the first year, and 80% right now would be 5.3 cents. We're down to 60% as of last August, and we'll go down to 40% in August.
But that's only the DNT component.
Correct.
Correct. And then it will remain at 40% for the life of the contract.
Right.
Which is 16 more years, or
20 years total.
20 total, but we've already
We've
At
used
2.
2.
Yeah, so it'll be 17 more years.
So went 80, 60, 40, and 3 and 3.
Yep.
You know, just one more question.
Okay.
I might be a little thick here. So 60% of D&T and the other, and then the other two charges equal .13281?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm set, thanks. Just wanted to.
All right. Next item is to discuss the CNR status, and particularly as it relates to the money that was asked for the town hall improvements. We discussed that at the last meeting, and John was gonna come up and give us some.
I did get quotes for each item.
With the exception of the drainage, I made that one myself.
And I'm just saying,
There you go.
there it is.
All right, so John had come to us last month and asked for transfer. And we asked him for some prices, and he has now supplied those to us.
So yeah, these are the prices for each component of the renovations. Paving came in considerably lower than I thought. See what happens. And I did put a 10% contingency in there. So the total's right around $160,000. And I believe we have right around 89,000.
We have 88,727 in the existing parking lot expansion, and in the uncommitted CNR, we have 118,894.
So it's a difference of about 71,000, I think, somewhere around there.
All right. So we're looking to move approximately $72,000.
Yeah, 75.
I'd like to shoot a little high, Mike, maybe 75. I mean, I did put 10% contingency
Yeah.
in there, but, and as I said before, any unused funds
We'll come back, yeah.
Can we get an exact number here? Can you calculate this out?
What, the 71,231?
Well,
Yeah, it was.
is that calculated based on what we already have?
So my number with the contingency, Dave, was 159,958.15.
Yep.
And
We currently have $88,727 for the existing parking lot expansion.
Okay.
Did you repeat that? 88 what?
I'm sorry, 88,727.
so I used 89,000, I came to 70,900 and something.
So 71, 231.15.
I'll throw it at 15 cents.
You will?
Okay.
Okay.
I can see it on the table first.
So, well, I got a good start there, John.
It's 15 cents, John. Go to work.
Are you deducting that from your federal taxes?
No, it won't be.
All right, I think if we just round it out to
Yeah.
$75,000 and make that appropriation, I think it would be a wise thing to do. And as John said, anything that is unspent on the project will be returned anyway, so.
Just out of curiosity, is there any wiggle room on any of the cost of materials, particularly the asphalt or those?
Asphalt can fluctuate, but I did get those prices today from Allstate. So,
And is that the only supply you can pretty much get them from around here, or
American, we can use also, but they're farther away.
so it costs more? Yeah,
Costs more, plus by the time it gets here, it's colder.
sure.
We like to keep it hot.
Biggest thing we're looking at here is the sidewalks and stairs, I mean, that's a pedestrian safety hazard. And then, as John had mentioned before, and I actually looked at them myself, and I had somebody else from the DOT with me that took a look at the catch basins and basically shook his head, said, you got a disaster looking for, because when they were erected or laid up, as they call it in the trade, they were done dry. And because of the settling and the wear and tear of traffic passing over them, they're
Yeah, it's
at a point where they could collapse at any time if someone were to drive over it. And that was just a giant liability for the town. So I think it's,
I mean, the renovations would be with precast components. You still have to do some water work.
Where are the landscape drains going?
There are 2 landscape drains now
Overhead?
in the lawn, but I wanna check all the drainage and update it all. I'm not gonna replace any pipe unless we need to.
I have a question, John. And it's just a little item here, miscellaneous motor pants, tools and stuff. That stuff you're gonna end up keeping, that's for your team?
They don't really last, Dave.
Okay, it's just
They-
disposable
We
stuff?
buy them for the job, yeah.
Okay, all right. Just wanna understand it.
Yeah. We buy plastic mortar cans, we don't use, you know, the old metal ones, so.
I have one if you need. Flip it over and bang on it with a hammer every time you wanna use it.
put Dave's 15 cents in it.
Yeah. And you got gravel.
Yeah, a lot of those things, I mean, they put 250 tons of gravel for the parking lot. May need more, it may need less.
Maybe less.
Okay, so yeah, I see you got 60 tons for the drainage portion and.
Yeah, that's the backflow we
Yep.
catch basin.
Okay.
Did the lighting go out to bid?
It did not. The electrician we used came up with an updated fixture, and he installed one out in the employee lot. We've looked at it. Take a look on your way out. It is brighter than the other ones. But you may wanna do something more elaborate than that. I didn't get any other options. We just changed that one.
So you're keeping the current poles?
Yes.
Just
And I asked,
them or?
I asked him about shortening them, and he said, no, you don't wanna do that, definitely not. So yeah, it's the same head with a new fixture in it and a new bulb.
Would that be an LED or?
It is an LED.
Okay, so we'll save a little electricity there, hopefully. We
And
will.
pointing down, put it down.
They are down, yes, yeah,
That one's not LED,
they are LED,
they are LED.
yeah.
Any other discussion on that? Questions? If not, we get a motion to approve transfer of those funds.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Lessig, seconded by Mr. Chamara
For the amount of 75,000.
From
from CNR,
Uncommitted,
uncommitted CNR.
uncommitted capital project fund.
Springtime or summer job, John?
As soon as the weather breaks, actually.
Yeah, we'll start on catch basins as soon as we can.
You need you want the account for where it's going, Donnie, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
For the parking lot expansion, project that's on our, 5-year capital plan? That enough?
It's actually gonna be 2 separate projects. There's an existing project, Dottie, and you can see me for the actual terminology. I can email it to you.
Yep, that would be good.
So the existing parking lot expansion and then the project that we asked for back in September, I believe it's upgrades to sidewalks and drainage, but I wanna just clarify that myself.
Yep.
So I can always email you the exact, so it'll be 2 separate projects. You're welcome.
But it is on our 5-year plan.
Yes.
Okay. That would be great to do that.
Yeah, I think it was town hall drainage and sidewalk upgrades.
There you go.
That's the original.
All right, I said it backwards, okay, so it's,
That's the original 75,000.
okay.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You all?
You still have to stay though.
Thanks for,
We'll be sending
my
Well, you have,
retirement.
you
I would
have,
like-
you have something else to discuss.
I would like to say that this is very helpful.
Okay.
Appreciate the effort that goes into that.
No problem.
Save us a lot of questions.
All like to-
It's all right there, that's what we want.
I did get written quotes, mostly local contractors, so.
I was actually here too a day when the contractors were out there taking measurements and everything as well, so. All right, the next order of business would have been the Board of Ed update, but they have
We
a,
didn't touch the underground tank.
oh, that's, no, that's under new business.
No?
No?
We put that as E.
Oh, okay, we move that as E, I'm sorry, all right.
Yeah.
I got it written right here.
I was gonna say, I did
Good thing I wrote it down.
Boy, it's a good thing I wrote it
So,
down.
so we're actually on.
Okay, so we're on E, and it's the fuel tank, the
Update.
update. John, you have some information on the,
The fuel tank, yes, we did get, I've got some of the closure report and the charge for testing, which I just got today, so that's an additional $2,191.
On top of,
And
Top of 10,000, wasn't it?
yeah, so, basically, we had 30,000 in CNR, and then you let us use 10,000 out of the contingency, which we have now have exceeded. It went above and beyond by an additional $5,527. SAS, what did they do? SAS?
he removed the tank.
He removed the
and
tank, so that was more than
most of them.
expected.
expected, and then this Atlas was another 2191.
This was also a little more than what was quoted to me because originally we were under the impression it was one tank with two compartments. There was two separate tanks, so they had to do two sets of testing.
What do we have now? One.
One tank above ground.
Okay. So we're talking about, we're gonna need an appropriation of,
$5,527. So $5,527. We're asking, either from CNR, uncommitted, or, a possibility of, you had also given John permission to use $5,000 from your contingency fund for the, Has Waste Day, which we did not end up having to use. Could we possibly use that money towards this?
so we're not gonna
And
have,
not touch CNR.
I love that.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're not gonna have the hazardous waste day.
No, we already did, and all the expenses were below what John had expected, so we didn't need to use the additional 5,000 that you had let
That was
us
just a
use. So we're, I
Safety
mean,
valve for
we'll
that.
still be a little bit over, but I think that we can absorb a little bit of that out of the town hall maintenance and repair. Yes.
So what do you need us to do then? What would you like us to do?
We need an additional $5,527 to finish that project.
So do we need to transfer it from,
If-
or
where-
do we need to appropriate it from our contingency and you won't be using the original 5,000? Correct.
So basically, we're not transferring anything, we're asking you if we can, instead of using the 5,000 you already had given us to use towards Has Waste, can we use it towards this?
Change the purpose.
Change the purpose.
All right. Then I would make a motion that we change the purpose of the original allocated $5,000 from the Board of Finance's contingency. Let me know if you're keeping up with me, Dottie. And use that $5,000 to finish the above-ground tank project at the town hall. Does that work?
The additional $500 could technically just come out of the town hall. I just would hate to, at this point, not knowing what could happen over the next several months with anything that goes wrong with the town hall infrastructure, would hate to
Absorb the 5,000.
absorb that, yeah, at this point.
And that's fine, because you're not gonna
Yeah.
use the original 5,000, and we've
Right.
already decided we were willing
Yep.
to utilize it, so that's what I would do at home.
Okay.
Purpose it. Dottie, you comfortable with that?
Need a second?
Second.
That's what we're waiting for. There we go. Okay, Fred, second. Any discussion? Hearing Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carries. All right, now, item would be F, would be the Board of Ed update. I did get an email earlier in the week that, from Megan Bard Morse saying that she would not be here because they had another Board of Ed finance meeting tonight, and probably due to that fact, no one else would be here in her stead, so we will pass that on until next month when they present their budget to us.
Go to the meeting, you went last night then, right?
Yes.
What did I didn't make it, sorry, how about the academy? What was there?
They were there, but, I mean, it
No
was,
meat, no nothing?
No cookies, I'll tell you that. You were shortchanged on that. No cookies.
very small turnout.
The live streaming also they didn't have.
Didn't work, I saw that.
They got, apparently the student who was supposed to do it forgot or got busy or something, Mr. Sanford said. Found out in the 11th hour.
He was just accepted to
Wesleyan,
Wesleyan,
I think it was.
and so he was probably out celebrating. Okay, so we'll move on to new business. Item A is discussion on a representative or liaison to other board meetings, being the Board of Selectmen and Board of Ed. David has said he's willing to attend the evening Board of Selectmen meetings, and I would be willing to attend the morning Board of Selectmen meetings. So,
Afternoon ones, right?
4 o'clock on the first Thursday and 7 o'clock on the third Thursday.
okay, well,
right?
afternoon.
What are those dates
Yeah.
again?
That's
It's usually
morning.
the,
It's morning.
maybe some of us, it might be morning.
China better retire.
China.
Okay, so it's the first Thursday of every month, it's at 4 PM,
That's right.
and the
Hold
third,
on, first Thursday, 4 p.m.
Attended the Board of Selectmen's meeting last month, and I was encouraged by what I heard from all the members of Selectmen, and I thought that it might be helpful to them and to our board if somebody was in attendance at all their meetings, so I offered Mike that I'd be willing to go. Of course, I can't speak on behalf of the board, but I can help shed light wherever there might be a question, and if I couldn't, I would tell them so. So that was my thinking, so I,
And also garner information to bring back to the board.
or if there's a question, maybe we could not need a month to have a back and forth communication, which is what we have now. We wait, we draft a letter, we send it to them, they deal with it, they draft a letter, they send it back to us, it's 6 weeks or whatever before we hear anything. So that was my thinking, and I brought it up thinking that perhaps we could, as a board, also provide somebody, ask if somebody be willing to attend the main Board of Ed meeting for the same purpose. So I just wanted to let everybody know why I asked Mike to bring this up.
As I say, I'm willing to cover the afternoon meetings with the selectmen, and David is willing to
I'll do the Thursday evening one.
do the Thursday evening ones. Of course, you're all invited to attend. They are open meetings, just like ours, so it's not that, you know, we're the only ones that can go. But we are looking for someone who would be interested in attending the Board of Ed meetings.
Been there, done that.
Mike,
How often do they have Board of Ed?
It's once a-
meetings?
once a month.
Once a
The
month.
regular meetings are
Regular
once a
meetings are
month.
once a month.
It's usually Thursday, this Thursday,
Yes,
the regular meeting.
second Thursday now.
Second
Yeah,
Thursday.
they moved it.
Right, they moved it to the fourth Thursday.
Okay, so tonight's meeting was supposed to be on Thursday. This day after tomorrow, is that correct?
No, tonight's
No.
meeting is a subcommittee
This
meeting.
is a special subcommittee
Okay.
meeting for the budget.
Okay,
I think it's
They'll still be having their meeting on Thursday.
okay.
I did ask, and it is the second Thursday, Glenn, is their regular meeting. During budget design, there may be other meetings, but that is their
Meeting.
main regular meeting.
Well, I'd be willing to do that on the months that I'm going to be here. There may be some months I won't be here, but I could let someone know that.
That would be
Okay.
fantastic. All right.
I may regret this decision later.
Then again, as I say, the meetings like ours and the Board of Selectmen's are open, anybody can attend, so just because we got one volunteer, that doesn't mean the rest of us, you know.
Just think it would be good for us to have better communication between the other two main boards. Gives us better opportunities.
Could always take turns.
Yeah, we can, and we can always take turns, absolutely.
Yes, we could. All right. Next order of business is discussion on a tri-board meeting. I know time is getting tight here. We have March 6th is the Board of Ed's presentation on their budget, but discussed it with several different people, and everybody seems to be of the opinion that it would be a good idea. Good night, John, thank you.
Good night, John.
That it would be a good idea if we could kind of sit down and maybe just have a informal discussion on where we're going here with the budget. So, I don't know how the...
Well, I'll brief you in public comments where we stand.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Do you have a date in mind or a week in mind?
Well, that's, we're open to that.
It's only two.
Like I say, right now, it's gotta be,
I was thinking about this, and, we've talked about this a bunch of times, and I think it's something that we should do, but I think that we might be at a point
where it's
for
too
this
late
year,
at
it's
this
too
time.
late,
Yeah.
and maybe we should think about scheduling something for next, like January. The January meeting.
Put
or
it in our schedule.
And then let everybody else know and work it out now, because,
I kinda
Between the
agree
Board
with
of Ed
that.
and us
The only
and-
other thing that I was thinking is possibly, because we're kinda down to the deadline here, is maybe, depending on how things go, and if we should hear anything from the state, one way or the other, that's guaranteed, which again, there's nothing guaranteed with the state. But if we were to get some updated information from them, maybe we could, between the combined budget presentation and the town meeting, maybe we could schedule a get-together.
I'm not adverse
Otherwise-
to it, but I know usually between the Board of Ed subcommittees, our meeting, Board of Selectmen, it's difficult on short notice to get
Yeah.
everybody to communicate and come up with
Exactly,
something.
exactly.
So even if we couldn't do it this year, if we could,
Well, I
decide,
think
and
that's what we should do is
here it is, we'll do it in January.
maybe put that on our,
At this point, I can only see the purpose of it as being a sort of an informal update of where they are in budget, because there's no message from us that needs to be sent on the budget.
Right.
They all know what the message is, so.
yeah, if you haven't got the message by now,
Yeah, there's no hope.
there's no hope.
And a tri-board
There's no
meeting's
hope.
gonna send any messages, so. The only purpose I could see would be, maybe they're kind of tell us where they are, but that'd be, given that their presentations are
That'll
already in
be-
advance, I'm not sure
Yeah.
how helpful that would be, to be honest with you.
All right, so.
I think the idea of scheduling something next January makes sense.
So do you want me to put that on your calendar moving forward when I make the annual calendar of dates?
Well, that's what we'll do when we set the calendar for next year.
Yeah,
we
so
will-
that I'm making a note, so I'll put it on my calendar when I get back to remind myself that when I'm making your calendar to add another meeting.
Sounds good.
All right.
Everybody good with that?
So it'll be another meeting, not on the second Tuesday.
Correct.
Or the second Thursday,
Right.
or the third Thursday, right?
We'll have to look at the calendar and
That's
see,
what-
see
and
how
it
that
was-
works out in the
Yeah.
puzzle.
And as long as I know by the end of November.
Yes.
Yeah, we should give everybody a couple of months to make sure that we can set it up. That's all. We're done with that. I need to make a motion.
Okay.
We need to add I'd like to make a motion to add the grand list calculation to new business, let's make it, item D. That's all right, you can do it last.
Yep.
Item D.
Item D would be to add
Grand list count.
grand list calculation. Sorry about that, I meant to do that earlier,
Now we all got swept up in
in the fun.
There's a second.
I need a second.
We have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, quarterly reports. Did we get?
You got the general government, I did
Yes.
ask Karen Monroe to provide them for the school, and I have not
You did
received
not
them
receive
to
them.
hand out.
But we got the budget projectors, what we got.
I did get
I have a question for Karen. Yeah, so what's our projection on the ECS grant as of your best knowledge today, as
Yep.
compared to what we budgeted?
Okay, so I have that right here. So for the current fiscal year, we budgeted $4,344,361. The letter I received from the state claims we're getting $4,664,882, which is an increase of $320,521. However, that is preliminary, and we will get final numbers in April. So we're looking, right now, in a perfect world, we are looking good on that end, but who's to say that's exactly what we're gonna end up with?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, what happens to, for instance, the low cap? Where does that stand at this point?
LoCIP?
Oh, low SIP, excuse
Okay.
me.
So right now, we are supposed to be able to apply for our entitlement beginning March 1st. And I haven't heard any holdback on that yet. So we're hoping that as of March 1st, we can, and what we do is we take one of our oldest projects, because it can take years depending on the amount of a project. I mean, we have some that we're still working on from like 2010. And then we submit all the paperwork, and then we usually get the money before June 30th. Have not heard, as of, today, any other news other than we were still able to apply for that beginning March 1st.
What about the National Park Pequot?
We did receive one payment, it was like a little over 8,000. I do know that moving forward in fiscal year 19, what I did receive looks like we're gonna still get a very small portion. I think we're
9,000.
budgeting, we're budgeting like 26,000, and it's gonna be a very small fraction. It's on that sheet I had given everybody, what they're projecting. I do not believe we are going to get back the, circuit breaker, which is the elderly credit. So we budgeted in this current fiscal year for that. I don't believe we're gonna get what we budgeted, and I don't think moving forward we'll be able to budget for that amount. I know, talking to the assessor, they're gonna be having a meeting soon to kind of discuss that, because I think the town will be the one that absorbs the cost. We won't get reimbursed.
How about the renters?
I haven't heard any other updates on that, to be honest with you. I haven't. The last I heard was that the state was gonna take back the administration of it, and then at some point we would still be responsible for 50%, but I haven't heard anything since that.
As I understood it, the state took back the administration, paid out checks, because no other way it could be handled at that point. But then they were gonna bill the towns or reduce some other grant for at least 50% of the rentals.
Yeah.
Program.
I have not received, I don't know if you have, I haven't received any updated memo from Secretary Barnes or anybody that has said that to us. I can check with the assessor to see where we stand with that, and, let everybody know. I can send out an email.
Because that's not a budgeted item, because it was always 100% handled by the state,
Right.
so it'd be a negative item to us.
Mm-hmm.
What about revenue sharing?
Not gonna get it anymore.
So what about this year? I mean, it's already a grant.
First, they said we were getting it, and then that was one of the ones they cut, so we will not be seeing that, so now, yes. So in other words, If we do get more from ECS, we'll break even, but if not, we're gonna lose out on the revenue share and we will lose out on the, circuit breaker. So that's about 150 grand.
Yeah, at this point, it's almost a fruitless effort because nobody really has a clue where it's
Now,
going.
all we can, I mean, you know,
Any of it.
looking at the revenues, all we can really do is go by what the state sends us, and that's, can't really do anything different.
I make sure I cash the check. And then real quick. I'm dead serious. Because I think it's gonna be that close.
Well, the way they change it, it's a good thing you do it in Excel. You just gotta make a new page, put a new date on it.
You know,
Once
the
it's all done,
formulas are
and then we
there,
have
just
to
plug
make,
in a new number.
exactly, but I still have to make sure I check every formula, because
Sure.
one mistake could be completely off.
You know,
Yeah.
there's one thing about when you said Excel, this printout sheet. I know this is the program that does it.
That's the program, that's not me. That
Boy,
is,
this is,
Oh, you mean where the lines are?
that's
the
our budget
headings?
sense, that's our.
everything's like shifted.
Yeah, you know, you
now.
gotta, I still,
drives
till
you
this day,
wacky.
every report I look at, I have to stop and say, wait a second. Where am I? Yeah, because you're looking at it, but unfortunately, that's not a spreadsheet, I think, that's
I usually use a
Our
straight
accounting
edge and mark
program.
the first line on each page.
highlighter.
All right.
All right,
I don't know.
anybody else have any questions on the general government quarterly reports?
And I apologize for getting them later, I should have had them on January, but I didn't have bank statements finished in time, so that's why they're a little later.
Linda, we still got tax money coming in?
We do,
A lot of it, she's awesome.
a lot of it. I'm 30,000 shy of meeting your budget. So
Fantastic,
Mhm.
fantastic.
should have that by the end of the week, I hope.
Linda, I did notice on the collection, this was December report,
Oh.
the amount of collection you had in December, so did you have a lot of early
Yes,
second payments?
yes, we had a lot of early people come in and pay in 2017. I think I have a credit of about 40,000 going to CoreLogic and another maybe 4,000 to Wells Fargo. And a couple individual people, but yeah, refunds are high. Well, we didn't get clobbered, but that was pretty high for us. Yeah.
Very good. All right, next order of business is the grand list. There was an increase in the grand list.
Question.
Yep.
I noticed is in the, next to the net assessment line, it says includes Bardell's non-taxable. Does that mean that, because the art purchased it after October, will be a prorated exemption, so that's gonna reduce this further?
Yeah, we lost tax revenue.
Right, because it went from profit to non.
And the note that Richard had put on here, I just wanted to recap on that, where it says Les Crabtree. Technically, I guess Crabtree files paperwork for an exemption, and they would have been entitled to 1.4 million. However, they did not file their paperwork, so he did not give them that credit. So had we have received that credit, the grant would have only increased by 0.77%. I don't know if that will change in the future, I doubt it, but right now, I think that I'd be very sad if I was in management position in Crabtree for not getting a $1.4
Well,
million
that door's not closed. They
exemption.
can always go to the legislature and ask for an extended period of time. When I was at OPM, we probably processed 20, 30 a year that went from local legislators, and they were almost always granted.
So that being said, that could be another consideration when we're trying to figure out what the actual growth in the grand list is, if that changes. I'll talk to Richard about that to see, but right now, you know, we're gonna base everything on the total net assessment, which is that 718 million.
Okay.
And how much of a change is that?
The appeal process doesn't start until March. The filing for appeals is February 20th, so that's still open, although we don't usually have reductions from our appeal board.
How much of an increase is that? in the grant list?
It would be a 0.77 if we did not
That's 0.77%.
percent. It's less than 1% of growth.
So that's about,
It'd be about
$5
3.
million.
Oh, okay.
$5,473,000.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. I don't have that many digits in my calculator. So that's about $125,000.
That's $129,667.
Are you talking about
Boy.
if we go with
If
the number
we go
from-
with the
Right.
0.77%.
Because if we didn't, if we went with the other one I came up with, without the prorates, I have about 145,000 in increase in growth. Last year, we're working with Barbara, we put in an additional 20,000 because during the year, they call it prorates, and our assessor did say we should come up with some type of a budgeted figure for that because things do change, people add things to their homes and stuff, so we probably, Mike, as you remember coming to me last year with a $20,000 discrepancy.
Yes.
We figured out why, it was because of that prorate, so, if we don't go with the prorate and we stick with the actual total net assessment, it will be about 145,000, and if we decide to add in the prorates, it would be 165.
How do we get from the 129 to the 145?
It depends on what figure we're using here. I'm going by not receiving any credit exemptions for Crabtree, so I'm going by the total net assessment, which is $718,031,376.
Right, that's
If you go by that number, that will create $145,000 increase. That's the number I'm using.
Plus 20,000
Plus
for
20,000 in
pro-
prorates, so it would bring it to 165. Now, if Richard comes back before we present revenues and explains to us that they're going to give Crabtree this exemption, then we'll have to change our figures, and that's where you get your 120.
And that will be the
Right, that would be your
129,667
yeah.
plus 20.
Right. So that's why I really don't like to present any firm numbers yet, because we're still going back and forth
in flux.
ourselves.
No, at this point, you're just looking for how big the.
Yeah.
And just for the record, several attempts have been made to reach.
Okay,
Are they?
it's all the correspondence we need.
They,
Get the check
in
in.
shape of the ink, 'cause I know they went through a chapter 11 or something.
I don't know. Rich said they've had some turnover there and.
They had a management restructuring.
Yeah, they don't have continuity, so.
I can say, but I prefer this not be in the minutes, from our company, that there were a lot of people leaving there, and they've been basically staffing that place with temps. Some of them been there for years, never been taken on full-time. And every one of them that comes to us, some have been keepers and some have not. They said the place is in bad shape. They do have a small group of long-term employees, core people, but my understanding is not great.
I know there's not a lot of activity down there. We got on there quite a bit with the fire department, with the ambulance, so.
That's a tremendous turnaround. In the wrong direction.
All right, anything else on that? So, going forward, we just hope for the best.
Been doing it for a while now,
Yeah, I know, let's
since July.
carry on, right? All right, correspondence and communications, y'all got a copy of that letter that I had received.
The 2 letters.
2 letters, actually, yes.
Could we not get anything in terms of a break with Woodstock Academy?
There was a presentation last night where he talked about, I don't know if it was because of that letter, but he talked about $5 million going into the community
Basically,
every
yeah,
year
that's a-
into the Woodstock community, between
Salaries.
salaries and vendors and donations, and I didn't write them all down, I don't have his slides, but he did talk about that, and I think he had greater region.
Yeah, he did. But what it amounted to is we don't get treated any differently than any of the other sending towns as far as cost.
Did they do anything specifically for Woodstock Public Schools?
They do. They share some of their services. They do have. I don't know how many people are aware. They do have armed personnel, security personnel on the academy staff at this time, and they do make rounds over at the schools. They're working on a security grant right now where they're kind of upgrading that, and Victor had made mention of possibly having security staff within the schools, but right now it's not costing us anything additional for security because
$1 a year.
the academy is allowing them to do that, especially with the middle school because the campus is right across the street from their south campus, and somewhat at the elementary because they have people that go back and forth between the two campuses throughout the day, so they do swing in, stop by. Also the hall down there, that's open to use for the Woodstock Public Schools when it's not set aside for something special for the academy or an outside venue that's come in and rented it. So they do help out there. They also send some of their students, I know, over to the middle school to help out with some small tasks over there as well.
Mike, you might know that don't they have people to help out with the music programs and stuff as well?
Music, and
Yeah.
they send a lot of kids over to help.
Tutor and so forth.
tutoring, special needs or even gifted. They
Athletic.
share a lot of non-monetary items.
Yeah.
And just clarify with the guns, that not every security guard up there has a gun.
No.
So there's a small handful.
There's a handful of select staff who are all former law enforcement that do carry weapons there. One was a captain at the head of security, actually was captain of Yukon Police Department for 20-some years. He's retired from there, and there are several other people who were either state troopers or local town police officers, and also corrections officers that are there. They have a safety committee that meets on a monthly basis, and I, with the fire department, usually go to all the meetings, and they do a good job, and the group of people that they have are excellent. And, as long as they're willing to share that resource with us at basically no cost, that's great.
So speaking about the fire department, does the academy do is there any compensation for the fire protection that the town is providing at this point?
At this particular time, the only thing that the fire department receives, but it's not actually the fire department, it's the WEMS portion of the fire department. They do pay whenever we send an ambulance up there for football games or any sports. They do give us a payment for the crew that comes out there. And they do, when we go up to extinguish their bonfire each year that they have their homecoming, they'll send us a check.
So is there any way to evaluate how valuable fire protection that we provide to them is?
Well, you'd have to take it on a whole town-wide basis to start with, and then, break out different elements to see what the value is.
Have we purchased special equipment for the
No.
academy?
No.
Or no?
Anything
Or
specialized?
specific for?
No,
or needed for that size built, I'm sorry, I don't mean.
no, nothing out of the ordinary.
But reasonably, there is a significant cost that the town is absorbing to protect the academy.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's, when you look at it, we're the host town for the academy, so if you look at it from that point of view, I mean, I happen to agree with the people that question it, that Woodstock doesn't get a break on the tuition compared to other sending towns.
So is this something that we should let the Board of Ed take the lead on, at least for the short run, before we take
Certainly.
it?
Yeah, oh
Their
yeah,
purview.
that's their purview,
Well,
absolutely. And-
yes and no, because there's another alternative which some schools use, like in some universities, Yale is probably a prime example to the city of New Haven, is they do a pilot, voluntary pilot, payment in lieu of, to the town. And not try to deal with it in a tuition manner. I think that would be difficult for the academy. But ask them for some payment in lieu to the town, like a grant annually. Because you start mucking around, I think they would have problems if you started trying to do tuition discounts and all that. So you're better off, I think the better approach might be to ask for some payment in lieu for services.
So is this something that we want to dig into now, or do we want to let the Board of Ed see what they can do, see what they can work out, and then pick it up later?
Again, I think it should be a non-Board of Education. From my perspective, I think it should be a non-Board of Education.
I would just, I have to throw my 2 cents, I would agree, because I don't think the Board of Ed has the same motivations that the Board of Finance might have, or the Board of Selectmen would have.
Yeah, I would maybe ask the Board of Selectmen to do as if they are the overarching body rather than us.
Just to put some perspective on this, because this, this letter, he's talking about $300,000. For Woodstock, we're talking about $70,000. So when we start looking at like services and support and use of facilities, if we're getting something that the other towns aren't, you can get to that $70,000 pretty quick.
I was just gonna say, I don't really have a position on this, but I do think that whatever way the town wants to go, we have to do a careful evaluation of the value, the actual value of the services that we do receive, to decide if it's even worth pushing forward to the next level. I mean, it's easy to just try to start swapping money, but we don't have an auditorium like they have that we can access easily without spending a lot of money. Far better sports complexes than we have that we can't afford to build. I mean, we have to evaluate, as I said, what is the value of them as our neighbor and friend. Certainly I don't want to pay more than it's worth, but I need to know what it's worth. So, I know the kids in Brooklyn aren't going to come up and use the athletics field or the auditorium, or the ones from Eastford.
And we don't supply any police protection because we have no police, that's the state police. So fire is really the only protection.
I don't know if I
protection.
think there are students though, or people from other towns that are using that auditorium. It's not just, I mean, I agree they are making it available to the community.
Yeah.
But it's not just to Woodstock, making that available. I mean, students come up from Brooklyn, I mean, they have programs that they offer to the community, that's true, but not, the other communities take advantage of that also.
But at the same cost. Those are the questions that need to be
Right,
asked.
except that those communities aren't the host community that are incurring other expenses. I think that's.
No, I hear you. I'm just saying, if they're getting all the same benefits, then I'd be looking more towards Mr. Klein's point of view. But I don't know that they are.
I think you could put the onus back on the academy and let Mr. Sanford, maybe he should outline what they're doing for the town. That they don't do for other towns. And let them outline it so that people can see it.
With the Woodstock school system, when you did negotiate the contract, they are doing certain things, and maybe have a non-formal meeting with Chris and see.
I'm gonna,
Give you a
I'm gonna
list.
touch upon this a little bit in a minute.
He has a list of things that they're doing, we did discuss that, and they do like, I had a, we did say $70,000 not, and I think they can probably cover that with just what they do for us by tutoring and.
Yeah, so I said it, we need to understand the whole thing.
Security alone.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, from this letter, we're going to ask the Board of Selectmen to take the lead on it and, okay.
Are we? Is that what we're doing?
I think we should, yes. Michael said he's gonna address that when we get to,
So, in that case, would we want it, I think we should probably do a motion.
okay? We got a
Right.
motion to ask the Board of Selectmen to address a response to the letter from Mr. Klein.
Is that the way we wanna word that?
No, I would say, like a motion to ask, to request the Board of Selectmen to have discussions with the
Woodstock Academy.
about
Services.
services and compensation for those services to the town of Woodstock.
Okay. You have that, Dottie? All right, so we have a motion, we have a
I'll
second.
that.
Whose motion now? Did that?
That was-
I made the motion, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Dave?
Sure, I'll
Made
second
it
it.
up, so.
Yeah, I made it up. Yeah, he made it
I
up.
made her let it fly, so I'll take credit for it.
Sounds
Or
good.
blame.
Any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So carried.
That was a setup, Fred, by the way.
Yeah. I was meant to go your way.
It was meant to go
Believe it or
your way.
not. All right, public comment.
So, Mr. Doherty.
Yes, sir.
So did we have any other did we have a letter from Open Space, Don had a letter?
I did not have a letter from Open Space.
Okay. Because she sent a letter to the selectmen, and you were CC'd, so I assume you got that letter.
Did not.
I'm the representative from this board to that board. I'd like to make, whatever we need to do to get it on the agenda for next month, to take a look at that original week from the CNR back in November. We were just approved for the drainage. At the same time, there was a $10,000 request from the Board of Selectmen that we did not approve. We were going to,
It was a
consider that
transfer,
later.
it was a transfer in from their surplus,
Right.
out of their professional services line item for fiscal year ending 2017.
I will just,
What did they wanna do with that now?
Wanted to add it to the 600,000 that they already have in their
Correct.
reserve account.
And
They asked you to transfer it, and you said you would give it to them if they needed it to come back.
And our discussion, and, because I remember.
I think it was two.
It was the fact that we were not agreeable at that time to set aside monies, which now would be set aside, which they did not have a need for at that time.
Don, Mrs. Adeletta sent a letter and it explains where how that $600,000 will be used. Some of the projects that are already underway. It gives us some background that we didn't have at that time.
Do you have a copy of that?
I have one.
I know what it
Good.
is, excuse me, what that is it was actually their budget submission to the selectmen, if that's what you're talking about, because that's the only thing we received, and they had asked to switch their money around. In other words, put less into their professional services and more back into their transfer in, which on July 1st goes right into their special revenue account to help fund them purchasing more open space. But that was their budget, and we normally present that to you in March.
Given that we don't have letters yet or whatever, can we just table this?
Yeah, well, I just wanna know if he has.
Just to make, and Glenn should follow up to make sure whatever was supposed to be CC'd here, we get it, so we
Yeah.
can possibly put it on next one.
Alright.
I can send you a copy.
Alright, very good.
Or I could send it out to the whole, okay, I'll send you the copy, then you can just.
Okay, very good. Send me a copy and it will be on the agenda for next month.
Having a discussion without.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
it's,
discussion
no,
are we about?
that's where I was going, do you have a copy of it?
Right.
I'd like to get a copy and then we'll put it on the agenda next month.
Well, that's why I asked it, the letters, I thought, I was
No.
hoping you would have it, okay?
No, do not.
Mr. Chairman, was that a motion or just a suggestion?
No, just a suggestion. All right. Public comment.
I'd love to give you an update on where we stand. As the general government budget process kind of unfolds, we've had several meetings now. We have gotten, I guess we've gotten pretty much all the input that we're likely to get from boards and commissions, individual departments, some of the third parties that provide services to the town. I think the initial budget request was over 3%, all told, and that included an increase that increases that we have, based on union contract, and also past practice of typically taking individuals who are not under a union contract and giving them the same percentage increase. So, so instead of getting 2.25%, 2% last year, the increased budget is 2.25% this year, it's 2.5% next year.
I just wanna add that 3% increase did include redemption of debt, so it's really not a general government budget. So I just wanted to
Right.
clarify that, so take that back, it would have been a 1.5% increase coming in.
Right, so they're more conservative.
Yes, because if I don't have the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's like 162 or 164,000 in the increase in debt for the school room.
162,346.
Thank you, yeah.
So our goal, as a Board of Selectmen, is to present a budget to the Board of Finance that will, when we consider the redemption of debt, come in flat. So that's our plan. Tentatively, we're very close to that. We haven't taken any votes as we go through the budget review process to date, but the general scheme that we have in mind is to close the town hall on Friday and essentially make adjustments to the hours of operation, obviously. We wouldn't expand any other hours during the week, and then that would necessitate changing some of the positions that we have. So right now that impacts a number of different departments. We have had, at the same time, ongoing discussions with NECOG about possibility of doing some sharing of services. So for example, Alan had previously started conversation about sharing, a discussion about possibly sharing town assessor services with other communities, and there's a whole host of different things that NECOG has the capability of and the willingness to do if there's enough support for it. So right now, towns are weighing in terms of what services they want to do. The Board of Selectmen has decided to pursue sharing the town planner, if at all possible, and has also expressed an interest in town assessment services. It doesn't seem that NECOG has the capacity right now, however, to offer the shared assessment services. You'll hear a lot on WNY, you might see some things in the bulletin. There are other services that a number of towns are interested in, like having a shared social services, veterans advocate. That's pretty popular, but I don't know that that's something that we need in Woodstock right now. So we're having those discussions with NECOG, and we're waiting for NECOG to get back to us in terms of what do they think that, for example, a shared planner would look like. They did an initial analysis, and based on 3 towns participating in it, our basic bottom line for that department would go from a little over $100,000 to perhaps $35,000.
Or even less.
Or even less, depending on the number of towns that are involved in it. The other shared situation that we have is with our building official. Right now, we share our building official with the town of Thompson. So we have a contract with Thompson through the end of this fiscal year where Thompson receives the benefit of having access to Terry Bellman, and they pay us a sum of money in exchange for that. I'm not satisfied, neither is the Board of Selectmen, that we are fairly compensated for that, based on just the split of time, the service that Terry is providing to Thompson, and the fact that this split does not actually include pension and insurance costs. So we've already informed, I think it was actually one of my first acts as first selectman, we informed the town of Thompson that we were not going to proceed with reinstatement of the contract as is at the end of the fiscal year. So we have made a proposal to Thompson, and they basically have a week from today to tell us whether they're satisfied with it or not. So we think the building, you know, that area, the building officials' site is going to be an area where there's going to be some fluctuation as well. So the plan right now is for us to continue down this path. We probably will have most of our budget inked on a week from today. But I just want to stress that, you know, the things that we're doing have a real impact on the quality of life for individuals that are town employees. We're trying to be mindful of many long-term employees who, you know, in some cases could potentially lose benefits from the town, and many employees who would certainly lose hours compensation. So that's one of our overriding concerns, is trying to make sure we do what's fair and proper, but also positions the town for where we should be for the future. So that's what all three selectmen, we're all on board with that, and we're having good dialogue. Karen is keeping us on track with that, and cracking the whip, and getting our binders ready, and trying to keep us on track as we digress on different paths, so.
And sending wrong agendas because I'm working with two boards.
Yeah, well, I wasn't gonna mention that.
First time I did that.
So, so that's where we are with those. I did want to touch on the academy issue because that was raised. I've had some preliminary conversation in the past, and there's nothing formal, but just informal discussion with Chris Sanford has touched upon the possibility that the academy may at some point be willing to transfer ownership of the round building to the town. And that could be a building that could have, you know, multiple uses for the town at some point. You know, right now, students are crossing the street to get access to meals, and I know that one of the things that Chris would like to do is to figure out a way to have those meals provided on one side of the street, and then sort of absolve themselves of the responsibility for the round building. We're very conscious now, I don't know how many, I know you guys probably all are familiar with the Bowen Fund, but you know, we're starting just to think a little bit about that and try to understand, as we move forward in our budgets, what areas of town government we may not want to fund the same way, in light of the fact that the town may receive as much as $5 million, or have access to $5 million in 2027.
Can you just give us a little background on the Bowen Fund?
Sure. So in 1927, one of the Bowens passed away and left the town $5,000. There were stipulations in that, and the primary stipulation was that the money had to continue to be reinvested. So one of the funds that we have, and you'll see it's audited annually, is that we keep track of this fund, we monitor this fund, we don't take any distributions from this fund. However, 100 years from the date of the fund, is it June 29th, 2027?
It's actually May.
May. We're gonna put that day in, it's a red letter day.
If we're still here.
If we're still here. Whoever's here. Apparently, at that point, the town can access those funds, all the gains in those funds, and the gains would be
I was gonna say, only the,
above $5,000, everything above $5,000.
yeah, only the gains.
Right, which is everything above $5,000, the initial investment.
That's the way that's,
Yes, it
That's the
is.
way, because we asked that question.
We did to our auditors, and it is, and if you, and the other thing I just wanted to
It's not the
point
way they
out,
put it in the audit report, though.
That's the way they.
it is in the will that specifically states that after the 100 years, any income earned from the original gift of 5,000,
Okay.
the town can use, and I think if it does, so that's something we have to relook at, but I'm pretty sure it says it's supposed to be used to defer taxes to the residents. I don't know if we can actually use it to build a community center.
Well, I think it's
don't know
broad.
how-
I think it's
yeah.
broad, and I think that, it's, however we look at it at that point, it's a potentially incredible resource
Mm.
that the town has access to.
that's tricky language. Because if I was writing that, and I wrote it that way, I would mean that you can use the income off of the 5 million.
Which is what I
Yes.
thought it
5
was.
million.
That's what I would have thought too.
But the audit report, if you
Income
read it,
earned,
that's what it
off-
refers.
They were looking, they had a very loose interpretation. They looked at the income as being everything over the
original five.
the original.
the original
yeah.
5, because that's the income it has earned over 100 years.
Yeah, but boy,
But nobody would, nobody would, I would like to think, nobody would go in and say, okay, we're gonna keep 5,000 and take 5 million out of there. I think you would, over courses of years, use it to
Use what you
defer
need, yes.
what you needed for, and keep it reinvested.
So-
Hopefully not for operating expenses.
Hopefully not for
Yeah.
operating expenses.
Right.
So that's just something that we need to be,
And I have,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
You have to run.
I do, I have to, unfortunately, there's only 2 more ski sessions left, and then I won't have to leave. I apologize, but I need to pick up my son.
So anyway, as it relates to Woodstock Academy, that's something that potentially, could benefit the community.
The round building is their cafeteria?
It is their
Yes.
cafeteria, yeah. We once owned it as a community, and then we sold it back to Hyde School, so. Because we couldn't find a way to use that building in our education scheme at the time.
Do we own any of the other land? We own all the land behind the
We
next
own,
door.
we own land up there, yes, and we actually maintain the land too, the town code
Tennis
maintains
courts
it.
and all that.
Yeah, we have
Baseball
that,
field,
baseball field.
John Navarro's group maintains much of that, so.
So we have plenty of parking around we own the parking lots around, right?
I believe we own the parking lots around there, yeah. So that's just something to be aware of in terms of the things, the possibilities with Woodstock Academy. The last thing, which is totally unrelated, for the Board of Selectmen's meeting for this Thursday, we are going to be going into executive session. My plan, Mike, was to invite you to join us into executive session, but that is not the night that you normally would be joining us, because you're an afternoon person.
I can be there Thursday if you would like me to be there.
We would love to have you join us. Our attorney's gonna be coming out to discuss an item which is protected under attorney-client privilege, so that will be a little later in the agenda, but it should be not too late, but
So it's this Thursday night,
this Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Yeah,
I will be there.
okay. I think that's about all I have for you right now.
So you mentioned some collaboration with NECOG. Did that include the building inspector? Could that be a NECOG?
I don't think so.
Shared?
No, I don't think so.
It's not on the list of services right now.
It's not on the list of services right now. The building official position is problematic for NECOG as a regional council of governments to deal with, according to John Filchek. It's more likely that we have to go one of two routes. We either, right now, I don't think we need a 37.5-hour individual in that position. We've kind of proven it by the use of the town, of Thompson and us this year. So what best serves the town? So we either have to come up with an arrangement, I think, with another community like Thompson, or we have to come up with an avenue maybe to make it a part-time position. We have a building official who's very good at what he does, but I don't know how much longer he's gonna be willing to do it.
Well, one of the things with that, I know, involving the trades with the building is you have a lot of national standards, and then you have state regulations and standards, and then you also have local town regulations, standards, ordinances that are all different, and you have to abide by whichever is the strictest of those particular regulations, depending on what trade you're working in, electrical, carpentry, whatever. So the problem that they have there is, in other words, you could have an electrical inspector or someone as a building inspector here in the town of Woodstock went down to the town of Waterford. That's probably one of the worst towns in the state of Connecticut as far as anybody that does electrical work down there, even in individual housing. They have a whole different set of standards that they use in the town of Waterford, and you know, so it creates a problem as far as having someone who has all of that knowledge and training to be able to handle multiple towns.
Well, we've had someone basically accessible to us for 30 years. And at some point, he's gonna hang up his hat and go on, and how we replace them is kind of up in the air. We have a potential resource to do that, but the appeal to many people is to have a career doing building construction and to hope to get a package from a community that provides for health insurance. But in order to do that, we have to be able to offer a 30-and-a-half-hour position. Today, I don't believe we have demand for a 30-and-a-half-hour position. So I think our best recourse is to do what I have offered to the town of Thompson, which is to give them a shot at taking the total expenses of that office and splitting it 50-50. So that's our initial plan. We have another approach which is kind of interesting, but you know, that should end up with some significant cost savings as well too. So there's a lot of moving pieces in all of these things, as you would imagine. So.
Woody, you had something?
Yeah, on the Bowen Fund, I think you're a little bit short. I think today it's worth 5.2, right?
It's actually come down.
Yeah, I'm sure the last couple of weeks haven't been great on it.
It's 4.9 now.
Yes, yeah. But with 10 years to go, you know, yeah, I know. I was talking to Catherine about this up in Alaska. She wasn't aware of that endowment. She has a copy of the will, though, if there's any clarity.
We have a copy of it too,
okay,
upstairs.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? Kevin?
I wouldn't spend that money quite yet.
Well, we're not gonna spend it for at least 10 years. We can't put our dirty little hands on it till then, so.
I won't spend it yet.
Any other public comment? Anything else from the board?
I sent it to your new list.
Move to adjourn.
We have a move to adjourn. We have a second?
Well, anyway, what I was asking is.
Second. Second? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right.